Thank you.
Just one quick question.
Sure.
How are we doing as far as employee involvement? Do you know, are the majority of the county employees actively involved in the training programs that you?
No. It really has to do with department heads. We start with the department head and offer, hey, these are all of the programs you can take advantage of. And there's literally hundreds. Like I said, the sheriff department's very engaged. Probably, it's great, the engagement they have. They use all of the tools. Nursing home is becoming more engaged now that we have
Marcos.
an administrator, full-time administrator. He's engaged. The other departments I don't know. So you're looking at the court, the health department, the coroner, the various departments. Highway is engaged as well. The highway department are engaged. So that's a good thing. Those are the highest hazard would be sheriff, highway,
Sure.
nursing home.
Okay, you can work on that then. Thank you.
During the budgeting, there was one gentleman who was trying to put something in his budget of encouraging people to go to the gym.
Mhm.
Do you have is there any history or any record of showing anybody attending any kind of gym or?
It's not been communicated to me, but again, in our outreach to employees, we do encourage them to download the Blue Cross Blue Shield app. In the app are wellness programming, and there are gym membership discounts, and you can sign up for programming where you earn points every time you go to the gym. If it's a program that a department head would like us to help design, we're happy to do that. We have tons of resources for that. We did just have our wellness screenings like just recently, right?
April.
It's in April. So that's a big deal. We started doing that 3 years ago. This might be our third year, where we try to get as many as employees to come. And I think in previous cases, we've had some incentives, but that's really where it starts is employee screenings, where they do that. It's a nice report that they get. Sometimes there has been a handful of cases where someone's cholesterol or blood pressure was like through the roof, or someone called and said, hey, listen, you need to go to the doctor today, or you need to call an ambulance today. But again, following that along, again, you can bring a horse to water, you can't make them drink. It's just one of those things that just trying to drive employee engagement. In my opinion, the department heads are closest to their employees and would know what would incent them to do various programming. But we are happy to put together whatever's needed. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have a resource library full of things that would be helpful. So it's just a matter of getting them to do it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So I just found out in the middle of the night when I downloaded the app and looked at it, you can join Fitness Lifestyles for $19 a month through the insurance. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
It's
I
very-
have several sneakers, so it's.
Maybe sure.
Yeah. That's really all I have. It's just sort of an overview. We're just kind of kicking off the year, doing the things that we've always done. I have good hopes that we'll have another good year. I don't have any issues or concerns quite yet. And like I said, I'm here as a resource. Whatever you guys need, please reach out. Happy to help.
How could we communicate that to department heads better, that there are resources like this? Is there anything else we can do to encourage that? Maybe, Madam Treasurer, from the department head?
I mean, we know, I
Okay.
kind of wanted, thank you for asking, because I kind of wanted to respond to Mr. Edens, that there is, for example, one class that everybody has to take, and that's the sexual harassment training every year. But the list is, I think, 320 courses long.
Yes.
And
Wow.
they're very, very specific,
Mhm.
and not all of them are going to apply. So for example, if you take my department versus the nursing home, it is cherries to watermelons,
Right.
so there really aren't any, I mean, for us, it's more ergonomics, things like that. So we can kind of do some of those things. And Mark Bell was in our office and, you should hold your wrists like this. So it's so variable from department to department, but the department heads are aware I mean, they've been given this information, and if they're not even able to come to the meetings, Georgia has provided them with Mark's contact information. We have the list, which, I mean, it's like 22 pages long of all the classes that are free to us, that are not free to the, just anybody.
Right.
So I think it's just a matter, I think if a department head, and some obviously already do, could, winnow that really far down. And then even then, there's really not a whole lot, for example, that I could do, but I don't have a workman's comp claim. I don't know even when we've never had a workman's comp claim. So you're kind of preaching to the choir in that respect, but, so I don't know what the answer is because every department has so many differences, but I think it's much better than it was. And I think the engagement at the department head level in terms of participating in meetings together and learning these resources has improved as well.
Well, it sounds like they all should meet with Mr. Bell.
Yeah, he will too. He will go desk to desk to desk. So,
He's great.
yeah, so I think we have the resources. I think it may be for some, especially if anybody's new, it's a little overwhelming.
It is, and that's the thing too, department heads, and I don't mean to, any disrespect to department heads, they have a lot going on. They get
Right.
thousands of emails every day. So it's just a matter of keeping top of mind. And again, if you go into the resource portal, you can have information overload and lose 2 hours by So we can construct things for them if that's what's needed.
Mr. Yours?
I was thinking maybe we could have Mr. Bell kind of pick out a couple of these classes for certain departments, and then the department heads could assign that to the
Sure.
employees as
It's not bad.
a yearly part of their review. So
And that's as easy as
you
it
could
is too.
force them to do a couple things.
You literally can assign it. I mean, you can, when you
Yep.
set up your accounts, you drive a course
Right.
to an employee.
Mhm.
That's something we could do maybe.
Yeah,
Have-
I'll suggest that.
You
You can push
you
it
could
up.
pick them out that way. And that way.
Okay, any other questions for Carrie? Carrie, the last one I had is on page 6, when will you have year-to-date numbers available? Is it after the first quarter maybe, or you take a look at that? Just curious.
Let me see, I have year-to-date numbers, they don't mean a whole lot, but let me rattle off a couple for the benefits you're saying.
Yeah, if there's any kind of trend line, I imagine you gotta go at least 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Before you start seeing anything.
I do, hold on. Medical premiums and medical and pharmacy premiums paid versus claims. It's just rolling, so from February of 2024 through January 2025. About 4 million and change premium paid and 4.4 million claims paid. So our loss ratio is 111%.
So it's still tracking.
Hmm.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
The hope, just to remind you, the hope in setting those plans with deductibles is eventually that we'll see that come to fruition here in a couple of years. Going from a zero deductible plan with plans with deductibles has to help something.
Definitely.
And if you recall, the $1,500 deductible had to be moved to $1,800 because Blue Cross Blue Shield, the lowest deductible they offered was $1,800.
Hmm.
So I see that trend as deductibles going up. It just is.
Right.
Answer your question? Anything else I can answer?
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Madam Administrator.
So I've been talking to Mr. Louie, and after the first couple minutes of the meeting, the live stream went off. So I don't think Beth would be able to know who made the first and second, so I didn't know if we could review 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0, whoever made those motions, so I just have information for her.
I did the agenda
Okay,
and then
I think it was mainly you two.
I second, I
for the agenda.
think you made one motion.
And you approved the claims, I believe, right?
I think I was in the meeting minutes.
Is it the minutes?
Yeah.
I
Minutes
think we had
first.
claims.
I did the claims.
Okay.
Made the motion.
Okay.
Are we back on?
And yes, and then who were the seconds?
I seconded the first motion, I think.
Okay,
Nicole, you seconded minutes of meeting, yeah.
okay.
I think you were 2 seconds.
And the claims? You did the
I think you did the
claims?
claims too, didn't you?
Sure.
No,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I was
She
gonna
was
say,
being vocal early on.
Yeah,
now.
proud of
Okay, so did Georgia leave a report?
It was linked on the agenda.
Is it on there?
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's just a kind of a summary.
anybody have any questions? You can read through that. We've got the city county meeting, March 10th was canceled. They're looking to reschedule that. UCCI legislative reception education seminar on March 19th and 20th. We got the annual salary and fringe benefit information. Excuse me. She's working on zoning and building director contracts. We got the regional meeting February 20th, the next one being hosted in Stephenson County for ILCMA. R1 Land Bank meeting on March 26th coming up. And we mentioned the wellness screenings. We got department head meeting. Mark Bell is actually going to be the guest presenter at that. So,
He just was.
Yeah.
or is that was?
That was,
yeah, March 12th.
Okay, so everybody's at least familiar with him then. So that's good. And then the GFP board meeting is coming up on 3/26. So, any questions for her? Certainly get a hold of Avery. Or Georgia, I'm sorry. Sorry, it was a long day. Still like, it is a Monday.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Madam Finance Director, you have the floor.
All right.
Thanks again for your.
So I uploaded the final period 13 revenue and expense report for 2024. The treasurer will no longer be using 2024 for any of the outstanding invoices. So those numbers are finalized. So I did hand out a report that's kind of a summary of all the funds that are on that report. And just keep in mind that if we do have cash carry forward in the revenues for a fund, that is not included here. There's cash carry forward is the cash in the bank account that has been carried over from the previous year. But there's no way to kind of, it's in the budget, but we can't put it in the line item. It's kind of a tool that the auditors use so they can see what we had as far as cash in the bank to use towards the expenses of that budget. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, we were pretty close. I would have to say, if you look at the far right column, the percent used, keeping that cash carry forward number in mind. There were a few funds that we overachieved in terms of revenues and overspent in terms of expenses. But so just wanted to provide a little bit of information, a little bit more detail.
I think we need to take a few more bridges. They say that a lot.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know about that. So as far as the audit goes, since the treasurer is done with period 13 for the nursing center, I'm able to upload the reports for the 2024 audit. So that includes budget versus actual, which is kind of like this, all the general ledger detail and trial balances. And as I said last month, the final field work begins on April 25th. So trying to get our ducks in a row before then. And that's really all I have, unless someone has any questions.
I had a couple just looking through the report. Is there anything concerning to you about the revenue side that is coming out of here? Like I look at the state income tax. Our budget is 1.6 million. Current account is 200,000. Year to date is 446. We're only at 27%. How long does that come in? That's only the first part of the year, isn't it? Or is that all year?
Every month.
Every month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like property taxes where it's going to come in.
There's a small bit of variation just because of when those taxes are paid to the state. So, but there is a payment every month. And do remember, some of that money goes to capital fund. So for example, this month for March, it was a smaller payment. So instead of depositing that to the general fund, that's the check that's gonna go to the capital fund. So like when you look at that next month, you go, well, why didn't that change? That's because the income tax line in the capital fund was the recipient of the deposit at that time, so. But
But you
everybody,
guys aren't concerned about anything as far as revenues being down at all from what you can see.
No.
So far, we're out of the year. Yeah, I need to get better at reading these. The other thing that I was wondering about on the, just specific to the nursing home, on page, where was it at, 42. When I look at the overall budget, it was $6.768 million. And the trend line so far in 2 months was 805. That looked to me like we were only gonna hit about 4.8 million. Is that, am I figuring that right, or, Mr. Chairman?
So you have to remember, when that budget was approved, it was based on a certain census level.
I understand that.
And in order to achieve those numbers, that census would have had to have been at that number on January 1st. Or at least you make up for it and go far beyond,
Right.
further down. So it's quite unlikely that you're not gonna hit those revenue numbers just because of census.
Right.
And not only the number of people, but the mix, the payer mix. I mean, we budgeted private pay. There are no private pay individuals out there. There have not been for almost a year.
There's one, isn't there?
There might be one.
There's
There
one.
might
there?
be one maybe on that one report, wasn't there?
I've been looking at the second one.
Something like that, but still.
I just bring that up as a general concern. It didn't really come out at the nursing home meeting, but after looking at this report, I'm like, hey, that's a disturbing trend along with the, you know, if we don't start picking up on the revenue side. You know, and we did not, I don't see the reflection of what we did with the TCM payment yet, correct?
It says
Here?
in February, that report.
well, and that's not gonna show in the nursing home because that money
That's just
came
coming out
directly
of
from the
the,
general fund to
right,
be recaptured from
That's-
property
yeah.
tax.
So it's
Yeah.
booked as a
Just so everybody
liability
understands,
from
yeah.
the nursing center due to the general
Right.
fund, so you won't see that until it.
gotcha.
I do believe the final payment to TCM was issued today.
It was.
Did you put a little love note from me in there?
That's not my job class.
I should have caught that one before it went out. Sorry, it's just a personal thing, but, okay. Any other questions for Adrian on the report?
And
Here-
just
oh.
the nursing home specific, I did talk to Ms. Baker earlier, and
Okay.
we're going to, I'm gonna include that, just the nursing center to her and to the whole committee.
Oh, good.
So they're a little bit more familiar with the revenue and
That
expense
would be
report because
great.
I don't think many are.
No,
And so it's overwhelming. When I send that link out, I mean, it's 140
I know. It's a
pages,
lot of
it's
stuff to
ridiculous,
absorb.
but yeah, I'll
For
just
sure.
do that specifically for the nursing home from
Okay,
now on.
thank you. That would be great. All right. Anything else for Madam Finance Director? Hearing none, we'll keep moving. Madam Treasurer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I didn't bring any copies with me, but I'm hoping you all had a chance to review the February report. Sent that link out on March 8th. The bottom line, I think, is that February end of month, we were down by 943,000 and change over January, which is only 3.28%, which is better than you would expect at this time of the year when there's not a huge influx of revenue from property taxes. But Mr. Whale and all the other revenue sources are right on target, so happy about that.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, and then if, you know, the page with all the yellow, if you look at it in color, those are the matured investments this month. There were 14, earned almost $66,000 in interest for several funds, general fund, several of the highway funds. So glad to see that they were happy to join the investment fund. So, you know, we can park their money somewhere, earn it a little bit while they're not using it. Even extension education, mental health took advantage of it when I offered it to them. So
Nice.
happy about that. So right now we've got 22 different investments in place on behalf of 12 different county funds. 2 actually matured today. At the end of February, the value of invested funds was $9.5 million. Any questions about?
That's great.
And actually, I want to backtrack a little bit to the cover page. This page here lists the income taxes and sales tax. So you'll always be able to see that. You can see, that's why I kind of added the thing at the bottom that shows the difference over the previous month and then a cumulative total. So it was down this month over last by about 34,000. And this month I already have all of the payments in. We got a tiny little extra public safety tax payment. So it's down about another 29,000, but that's what we expect this year.
Mhm.
So it's such a cyclical thing. So I'm not concerned, at least not now, because this is about where we were last year. So
Right.
I feel pretty good about that. So any questions about the
Yeah, I've heard, but hopefully everybody saw that the property tax advance is listed on there as well on the last
Yes,
page.
yes, I'm sorry, if you look on the left, so this one now on the back list, it includes the January and February payments. So I just released the check today, 60 some $1,000 too, so that then will show next month. And that number then will stay the same until I start to recapture some of those funds, which will be July. So, and the way that will work is we take everything until the general fund is made whole, and then what's left, usually at the end of the tax season, is what they keep. That's why you couldn't authorize the entire 500,000 and only went up to 425, I think it was. So they'll still receive tax dollars, but the general fund recaptures that advance first. So that's what that means. And I do hope people look at this page, because I think it's really important to see, really, there are a lot of restrictions on different funds. You can't just move money and put it here. And, obviously you've already created a budget. So that combined with what funds can be accessed for what purpose, there really isn't a lot of wiggle room. So any questions about that?
Well done.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
has the entire amount of the advance that was authorized been expended?
No, because the amount, I think you authorized up to 425, if I'm remembering that right. I think it ended up being, was it 4.8? It wasn't dollar for dollar. So I think there's just a little bit more room, but not much.
Can you get that number? I don't need it right now.
Yeah.
but Please.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. A lot of these investments were between 3.9 and 4.5. What's the renewal rates looking like?
I just renewed some and they were at 4 and 4.2, and it depends what it is, because I'm more of a short-term vehicle kind of person, because I'm a little unsure, but like a banker's acceptance certificate, which is basically a post-dated check from a bank, those are getting me around 4.23 right now. CDs are still about 4.1. Treasuries aren't really all that great right now, so I'm kind of sticking with my banker's acceptance certificates, because I can name the number of days that I want to have something in place. So it's really, really versatile, flexible tool that I like to use. But that's where we're at. We're not anywhere near 4.5 yet or anything like that. I'm thinking 4.25 is where we might sit for a little bit. But
Comparable though to what you had.
yeah, which is higher than I thought it would be at this point. So try to
Yeah, it's going to start down.
maximize that. Yeah.
Thank
All right. Any other questions?
Well, no, I have other topics,
You have other
sir.
topics?
Yes,
Well, keep
that was
going
just a
then.
report.
All ears.
So the second thing, I broached the subject last month with some cringes and some yay. Well, the yay was mostly me, about potentially changing the fiscal year. We talked about, Mr. Bush didn't quite yay, but so just to recap, I'd like to just explore the possibility of examining moving the county's fiscal year to align with the state's fiscal year to be July 1 to June 30. It is a difficult process. I acknowledge that right up front. It takes work, it takes planning, it takes forecasting and analysis. I think it may be worth it. I did have, and you asked me to we're gonna talk about this every month until we decide yay or nay, but I did speak with our audit team leader today, and she actually has had a lot of experience doing this. Not at a county level, but municipalities, fire districts, other tax districts. So we talked just about a couple overarching things about, financial statements, additional budget, which she actually said isn't really as imposing as it seems. Things like collective bargaining agreements, payroll are not as difficult as you would think, because your payroll, because of the federal government reporting, is always going to be a calendar year. It's just your budget year that would move around it, which I don't know if that's a benefit or a negative or not. But she's willing to kind of work through some scenarios with me, and I can just continue to share as we do some research. The state actually doesn't, and I won't pretend that my research into statute was exhaustive, but the only thing that I can find that the statute speaks to in terms of fiscal year says any county which determines to change its fiscal year may adopt a budget to cover such period greater or less than a year to affect that change. So you could make a budget longer, or you could cut it in half. So I just bring that up to say there are options. There's no one way to do it. So that's my initial report on that process. So, I don't know how you feel about it, but keep going, or?
Can you remind us what the potential benefits are?
I think it's a lot better for, I think it's going to facilitate better budgeting, better strategic planning, operational efficiency. Whenever you can align your function with the two biggest things that provide your revenue, I think it's just smart. And those two biggest things are the state and property taxes, both July 1 start. So it's difficult to help people understand. For example, if you look at the financial report, there's $7 million in the general fund. Oh my God, but that money is earmarked already. It's already, you've already got a plan for most of that money, because that money has actually crossed over 2 years. So we collected a lot of it in 24, but you're paying 25. But then now in 25, you're going to get tax receipts that are going to cover 25 and 26. So it's not impossible. It's fine. It works. I just think it would work better. But I understand that I may be in the vast, vast minority, and I am willing to accept that. But I think it's worth a discussion. And I was going to speak with Lindsay, who is our auditor, a little more in depth and reach out to the municipalities that she's worked with. Because as I said to her, I am perfectly happy to walk a path that someone else has cleared, and see what it was like. I don't want to be the one to have to clear the path if it's that difficult. So I'll just kind of get a little bit of information each time and share it with you, and you can shoot it down or whatever you want. But I just think it's worth, again, exploring.
I'll be one of those guys taking a shot.
It's okay. I'm expecting it. So yeah.
We just changed it, how many years ago? We went to
2018, I believe.
It's been a while.
to help us be better aligned with expenses.
I don't think that was what it was.
It dealt mostly with insurance though, didn't it? Because we wanted to have a fiscal year in line with our health insurance.
But now our health insurance starts December 1. So we're
When
not.
did that change?
I mean, I thought that's how it's all. I
When
thought
we
it
redid it, it
was.
starts in,
It's January
1st,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's January, but, so that's one of the reasons why it seems like just changed it. I mean, realize that's 7 years ago now. I guess I didn't think it was that long ago, but
No, I get it. I understand.
yeah, I'm looking at it from, that's another side of it. You're looking more at the revenue side than the expense side. I think that is easier to understand. I understand what you're saying. If it's the public that's looking at it, we're never gonna,
Right.
your average drive-by voter is not gonna understand anything.
I just like I think it lends itself to greater transparency because you're able to match $1 to a year. Whether that's,
But then we're gonna do it once differently. We're not gonna be able to match dollars to years on the expense side.
we do, actually. Because we have that period 13 that the finance director was just talking about. So we can capture what was expended in any given calendar year. So the only difference is you're just not being billed right away for an expense that happened in November, December. So, actually, she and I had this discussion that when I was digging through statute, a county of our size really is only able to go 31 days to pay a bill beyond the end of the year. So that's going to have to be our drop dead date going forward.
But how does that, is that only on calendar year or audit year or?
Us,
Then that
it's the
doesn't
same.
change anything.
The calendar year and the audit year currently are the same.
Mhm.
So your audit's always gonna cover whatever your fiscal year is. Because
But that 31-day issue is gonna be there no matter when your
Right,
fiscal day
correct.
year ends.
So but the point of that point is that we'll always be able to match an expense to a year. Because of our AP, that's easier than matching a revenue dollar. So again, I'm not trying to convince anybody, I think, and if I recall, Miss Floor, who was the one who really felt strongly about moving to the calendar year as well, my recollection is for her, it was more about payroll. And that was her experience at her place of business, is that payroll drove that. So, and I understand it, so.
Thank you.
I'm happy to go down swinging, so, yeah, it's fine.
Well, I don't think it hurts for us to get some information.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Right, and maybe somebody who's done it is like, don't do it, I mean, I'd just like to know more.
Right.
So, and I recognize it may be a very long-term examination. So, last, I wanted to just share, not just last, but Mrs. Baker and I both were able to attend the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference end of February, beginning of March, and I won't speak for her, but I will say it's just one of the best experiences that anybody in an elected office could possibly attend. You're surrounded by subject matter experts who are speaking to you one-on-one. You're deep involved in policy development. You're there on the Hill with your representatives and representatives who are on committees that matter to you, advocating for what your county and others need. So I just want to say, if you can ever go. You cannot benefit enough from it. So, and for my case, in my case, I got to enjoy a very in-depth discussion examining national trends impacting local revenue. Things like taxing VRBOs is one of them, which I think is kind of a timely topic for us. So that's just an example. So the dollars in my budget that you all approve for that purpose were well spent. So thank you for that. And lastly, on the collector side, senior citizen tax deferral applications were due the 1st of March. I had 3, which is a 200% increase of what I had last year. So those are going to the Department of Revenue this week. Prepayment of property taxes that are due this year can still be prepaid through the 20th of April, if anybody's so inclined. That document's on our website and in our office for anybody who'd like to have it. And I will be out of the office on April 17th because I'll be hosting the Zone 4 Treasurers here in Freeport. So that is all I have, unless you have questions.
I did have one quick question, which is more of a quizzical thing on my own part. On my state taxes this year, the state did not believe what I told them I was paying in property taxes, which I thought was
Sorry.
rather
Should not
comical.
have laughed.
Well, I'm like, can't you just look it up? I mean, why? They sent me this letter telling me I owed it, I really don't, and I had to make a copy of my property tax bill and send it to them.
That's happening more and more frequently. I think, I can't speak to why.
I was just curious if you
I
had
don't
heard
know.
anything from down south.
I can say what I think, but I'm not going to.
I got you.
But
I was very
it's a delay.
disturbed by
I think
that,
it's a
because I'm
delay
like-
tactic, to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest. I think there is some randomized testing there, but the state doesn't have the manpower, for example. I mean, it's as easy as going to our website because all that's public information
Yeah,
and
that's
you
what
can look.
I'm thinking. I'm
But
like,
they're not gonna do that. We have people who would, you go to your tax preparer, they ask you to bring the copy of your tax bill when they can go to our website and
Yeah.
look it up. So I think
Right.
it's,
just curious.
yeah.
I was perturbed.
I think that is happening more and more frequently. So.
I was just wondering, if it's because I have an R by my name or
No,
something, and somebody
No,
downstage is.
it's an equal
I'm gonna get that
opportunity harassment tool, yes.
Anyway, just,
Sorry, that
Curious.
you're one
That's
of
okay.
many, yeah.
yeah, won't go there. Anyway, okay. Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll keep moving. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. We have no old business. We'll move on to approval of the RFP for copier equipment and services. Does any, who would like to
I've got
enter that? I got that one, Mr. Chairman.
I do.
Thank you.
So in 2021, I had asked that we co-term all of the copier contracts that we had, and it's actually taken about this long to get to that point. And what this RFP does is it allows for all departments except for the nursing home to get on the same contract. We have to put out an RFP because there is a purchase. There's 39 pieces of equipment that'll be purchased. The funds for these purchases will come from the technology grant that the circuit clerk's office applied for and received. It was almost $364,000 that they received. This is kind of, unfortunately, a last minute situation. April 1st, the tariffs go into place, and we are being told that if we don't make the actual purchase or make the order by March 31st, they'll increase the cost by almost $60,000 to do so. There's no money in the grant for that additional funding. So if you've read through the RFP, it does state that there is 5 days, which is what county code allows for at a minimum. We have to publicize it for 5 days. That's what we're going to do. The public opening will be March 26th at 10 a.m. right here in this room. And I believe the administrator has reached out to all of you to find out about availability for a special board meeting on next Thursday, the 27th at 6 p.m. Only to approve whatever bids that we get to consider and approve. So with that, I would be more than happy to answer any questions. This will be much better in the fact that there'll just be one renewal as opposed to a handful at different times of the year. So, yeah.
I guess before we get into questions, I would entertain a motion to approve this as presented.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second. I have a second. So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, questions, comments, thoughts? Seems like a pretty good deal to me. And I'm all about saving 60 grand.
Yeah, unfortunately, the reason why this is coming up at this, in this manner is there was a question as to whether or not we really needed to do an RFP because there is an existing contract in place with Gordon Flesh. If Gordon Flesh is not the winning bid, whoever the vendor is will have to buy out that contract. So that's the point of contention. We weren't sure if we really needed to do it because we have an existing contract in place, but there is new equipment being purchased and it will be significant, about 200,000. So RFP it is.
Gotcha. So we have a motion and a second to move this forward to the county board, or move it forward to the RFP process.
Just a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Is that in, I was just looking, is that in the RFP? I didn't remember.
It's at the bottom.
About paying off that.
I believe it is.
Very bottom page,
Is it?
at the very
I'll
bottom,
have to buy
I
out.
was trying to find it. I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure.
88,966.
That's the number on the second page?
The very bottom page,
No,
the
these-
Okay, there you
very
go.
last sentence.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have another?
I did. So that a grant allows the purchase of these printers or copiers for all departments? Or does it just have to be just for?
We went through, it's not technically a grant, it's more of an award.
Okay,
You know, it's splitting hairs,
but it's
but we
allowed.
went through it with fine tooth comb, and there's nothing
Okay,
precluding us from doing this.
Super.
Okay.
All right.
And Carl has reviewed this
Okay.
okay.
at length.
All right. So, hearing that, so are we moving this forward to the board for approval?
You're approving the RFP, which will get posted tomorrow.
Gotcha.
So what will go before the county board will be on the 27th, after the bid opening on the 26th.
Okay,
There will be nothing going this Thursday.
gotcha.
It's a week from Thursday.
Just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yep.
So we have a motion and a second. In that vein, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, committee chair reports. I don't really have anything. I was a little bit concerned about the revenue stream going into this year, but the Madam Director and Treasurer cleared that up for me right quick. So it seems like everything's on track there. I will defer to the administration committee. Anything
Yeah,
to
I
add?
have a whole I think our assessor is going to speak on May 15th at the conference, so that was interesting. And I wish her well. I'm sure she's going to do well. And then Nate was, obviously Nate, you have to go back and watch the video, but Nate was talking about all the work coming through with the grants and all this other stuff that he's working on at the courthouse, and I'm not gonna do it justice, so watch the video if you're more interested on that. But a lot going on. Obviously, the circuit or the county clerk is busy with the elections and her team, so a lot going on.
Do you know if there's any talk, and it might be more of a state question at this point, but I know there was some legal stuff going on about the extension beyond the day of voting, that we're not really allowed by law to do that, and yet we do for like 2 weeks beyond the election.
I don't recall Jasmine saying anything about that, but that would just definitely be a question for her
Okay.
to look into or answer, so.
I just remember reading some things legally that there were some stuff going on in that vein, specific to Illinois.
Yeah, I think there's other talk about
Yeah.
getting ready from the electronic stuff, but we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see what happens there.
Gotcha. Just curious.
So, yeah.
All right, nursing center?
As of today, we're 48 census. The HVAC work is completed with flushers, so that's a plus. And then Marcos is hopes to have reports coming next month for our new billing company, and hoping that we can see some of the work that they've been doing, which is kind of nice. And then with Adrian's comment, we are going to start putting the report on the agenda, so that will be a link on there too, so we'll be able to see that. And other than that, that's really about it.
Thank you. Mr. Bush?
Well, just two things, the RFP for the courthouse cleaning service. And then also two bids for ADA courthouse restroom project. We did receive a grant for that, but however, the bid that came in was a lot more than what the grant money. So he questioned, did we want the committee to send the money back or keep it? We decided to keep it. So now he's gonna have to, the grant was $39,615. The lowest bid was $65,540. So now he's gonna have to find somewhere to make up the difference for that. So that'll be on the agenda for Thursday, I'm assuming. He did give a report on the elevator and everything else that's in progress. So that's it.
Super. Thank you, sir. Court services?
Oh, I was trying to do my report through the video, but somehow or another, I don't know what happened, but it was at the tail end of it. So I don't know what happened with that.
Okay. Yeah, our owl's been kind of acting up lately.
I think the internet's an issue.
Core services,
Yes, sir.
biggest thing was, the grant that Chanel, acquired, paying for the copiers. That was a great,
Pretty
big
cool.
chunk of money. And, there's almost $9,000 in youth diversion fee or fund that we will be, distributing, next month, I think.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So, all good news.
Yeah, along the lines of the grants, I know we had talked about, I talked to Chanel and GFP about how we can leverage grant writing, and now I think Blackhawk Hills, we've kind of opened up that door with them to see how we can capitalize on more of these opportunities
Great idea.
as we go forward to recoup some of the money that leaves the state and try and bring it back. So that's good stuff. Good example of it. Sir, you're up.
My turn. So it's between seasons out of the highway department. Winter's trying to end and construction season hasn't begun yet. But we do expect more progress on Cedarville Road this summer. Our pavement preservation program is going to be kicking off as well, and they're going to be doing cold in place recycling on Lamb Road and others. So that's all good. One thing that never ends out there though is Engineer Rasmussen never lets grant writing season ever end, and he's also working right now on securing additional grants to be studying the engineering of placing a roundabout at Gleaner Road and Cedarville Road. That's kind of a skewed intersection there. Some people call Gleaner Road Stagecoach. You may recognize it there as that instead. So that'll be a nice way to put a finishing touch on Cedarville. So,
Can we comment on that? Sure. Basically, that roundabout is the only thing that's gonna fit there.
It is.
That's why they're going that direction.
Right.
For the public that's gonna say why.
the intersection itself has a 53 degrees, is that right, Larry?
Yeah, it's not 90. I know
It's
that.
not,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
about-
typical intersection. And the Department of Transportation won't allow that intersection to be rebuilt as it is. It has to be re-engineered. And there's all kinds of obstacles. There's storage buildings to one corner. We've got solar panels to another,
And wetlands on the other corner.
wetlands into the third. And so I'm really hoping the roundabout kind of solves all those issues.
Do you know, the public has a request for a specific strip of road. How do they submit that to the county? Just like, as a, for instance, when I come up Stephenson Street out there between Van Brocklin and where the city ends, right at that hill crest, that strip's getting pretty rough. And how, I think I mentioned something to Dale, but I mean, as far as just somebody that doesn't see him on a regular basis, how would they submit that to the county? Like, hey, this road's getting bad. Have you guys looked at this lately or?
So they should approach Mr. Rasmussen about that.
Okay.
All the roads are mapped out ahead of time, so we already know 4 or 5 years in advance what our target roads are going to be. And those roads were selected on different criteria, which includes condition of the road, but also vehicle counts.
Sure.
So sometimes it might seem easy that this road would qualify, but because there's few people on it,
Right.
it gets down to this.
That makes sense. Cool. Thank you. I was just curious.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if there's potholes or anything like that though that need to be repaired, he will go out and do that in the meantime,
Gotcha.
even if the road's not rescheduled or scheduled to be repaired for years.
So just call the highway department
Yep.
and ask, that's kind of, I just wanted to get that out there.
If you can give a location of that,
Right.
you can use GPS to tell them where it's at exactly.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Use your phone, it'll give you a spot.
Yeah.
We've done it.
But this time of year, there's usually things like that.
Yeah,
That come up.
they-
So, or people can be aware to just call and, let them know the better. So,
The city just introduced a link where you can go on, you get a form to fill out and ask you what the problem is, signs missing or damaged or whatever. And you fill out the form and send it in, and they'll send you a work order, and supposedly you can track
When it's gonna happen.
progress. I filled it out a couple times already.
I mean,
Yeah.
my wife hit a pothole like a year ago, was it? Maybe about last year this time, that actually popped her tire. Coming up Stephenson, right by that four-way stop.
Yeah.
And I called that in, but it was a good 2 months later. I still hadn't seen that pothole bill. So
I
that was
made
interesting.
a claim with the city or something.
But
Years ago.
anyway, planning and development.
All right.
Planning and development.
It was a pretty short meeting. GFP did come and give their report. Ms. Henning and Nicole were off on a conference that they went to. So they submitted her report in. So that's in the email, I think on the 10th. But what's coming to the full board is the payment for iWorkQ software for zoning. That's for April of 2025 to March of 2026. Beth did include that into her report too. So if you want to know any details, reach out to her. Miss Winters was there to go over the tourism thing that's going to be on the board agenda as well. But I think Georgia sent out information on that. So if you want to know any information, go back to the YouTube channel and watch it before Thursday. Other than that, that's it. There's 2 emails, and in the YouTube you can watch. So.
Super. Any questions, comments, anything else? All right. Any public comments? I don't think so. Mr. Bush.
Hey.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Slow.
Thank you very much.
Not against it.
Hey.
You got to hold me no more.